I think you guys are unique in a way, especially with the art style. Like the Fiance was the first time I got into the Chariot. A buddy of mine gave it to me like 2 years ago, and like the art style on the Fiance itself, with the old school pictures and just the really wicked kind of steampunk look.
Yeah.
I mean that stood out for me, and I mean like Fiance was kind of like one of your, I guess, one of the breaks around because it got you through the Billboard 200. I really think the art style you guys have for all your stuff is unique.
Yeah.
With the Fiance, I mean, the older album. Do you think it's Fiance? When creating Fiance, did you think it would break the Billboard 200?
No, not really. We've never really thought that we are gonna. We don't really make music for the masses of any sort. So, and nor are we trying to. So when anything like that happens, it's pretty humbling and weird. It's like, well, that's cool. It doesn't make sense really, but it's cool. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the Fiance, and we were really excited about doing that as every record. It's like everything that we've done, we've been like kind of like excited about and proud of. But it's never been like because we're trying to like create something for the top 200 billboards. Like
it just kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, we've realized that we aren't for the masses. We don't. So if but there's a lot of bands that, I mean, Nirvana wasn't for the masses, but they definitely were. You know what I mean? So I mean, we've never. It's not like, It's not like we're bitter towards it. There's some. I mean, I have friends that are like in punk bands or stuff that it's just like they just get bummed if anything's doing well. I mean, we don't care about that, but also we're not trying to do that. So I'm just trying to, have fun and play music and worship, and get out of the way, I guess.
All right. We don't think success is a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the main things. As far as the U.S. tour for Scream the Prayer 2011, how's the tour? This is your 5th date, I believe so, and
something like that.
I think you have like 19 days to go.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound that big, but yeah. How's the tour going so far?
Honestly, well, there's lots of things. I mean, it's kind of a grueling tour just because there's 10 bands and and the long drives, so you get there early, and we have to get there early in the morning. So by the time we play, you're tired and you've been sitting outside all day, or just kind of waiting around to play. But I mean, the shows have been great. It's always, I mean, no matter what happens, if you get to play a show at the end of the day, it's kind of like you're not really losing at that point. But it is a hard tour, and I mean, for us, we're not used to doing like, we've been kind of like, not to, I use this word not too loosely, but kind of pigeonholed into the Christian market. But we don't really do that many Christian tours, and that has nothing to do with me saying anything wrong with Christian tours or being a Christian, because I am, but it's not something that we're used to, and there's a lot of things that go along with that are very challenging, but because the way that we see that our band is an opportunity to kind of like break down a lot of the barriers that are between Christians and non-Christians, and there being a lot of things that people that aren't Christians hate about Christians because of Christians. It has nothing to do with Christ. The reason that Christians are that, people are Christians supposedly because of Christ, but the reason that most people hate Christians are because of Christians. So we feel called to be to stand in that gap, and our music represent that gap as well, and so being on a Christian tour is kind of counterproductive to that sometimes, if that makes sense at all. I don't know.
No, it makes sense a lot. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with Christian tours or anything. I'm just saying our band, we, like I said, we feel to stand in that gap, and sometimes being on a Christian tour, it kind of like sets that back, because people don't like Christian bands. I mean, I feel like that's something that, or people tend to have like this, like, like put a Christian band in this kind of like, they get pigeonholed, or whatever, because of they believe in something that, may or may not have hurt somebody in their life. This idea of religion, and we're trying to break down the idea of religion, and there's something beautiful behind that everyone could really benefit from if they weren't first hurt by this religion thing, And I feel like, I guess the main thing to sum it up is like, if people knew Jesus for who he really was, they would know that he doesn't not only loves them out of obligation or something like we think about it, love a lot of times, but he likes us, And so that's and there's a lot of freedom in that, which is the opposite of what Christianity represents. So that's how I feel about screaming prayer sometimes.
Well, look, and if it takes a lot of guts to say what you feel and how you feel about it, and what you're saying there, a lot of it is true. There is unfortunate stigma associated with being a quote-unquote Christian band.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot of guts to come on the Scream the Prayer tour. Hopefully, like I said, not get pigeonholed, because I think your music is more than just somebody labeling it like that.
Right.
And any type of music getting labeled, I think, is bad for the music. It's a very apathetic way of looking at music.
Right.
So I completely agree with what you said on that.
Yeah.
And again, I really think it takes a lot of guts to come out and say that.
Yeah. And I feel like, and we don't want to. I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of rest on the idea of the Christian music industry, because there is potential for a lot of money to be made banking on the fact that you're a Christian band, and we don't take advantage of that. Like, we're not trying to do that, The only thing that we're trying to do is to make music for everyone. We're not making music just for Christians, We're making music for anyone who can relate to what we're talking about or what we're doing, musically or artistically or in any way, So yeah.
Awesome. And last, again, I want to thank you for your time on this.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I could meet you, because I know they had set up go to interview with Scoggins, but I was hoping you would be there too.
Yeah.
Because in the previous interviews I had seen he kind of mentioned you were a very big part of the writing process. I know the lineup has changed a lot for the Chariot in the past couple of years, but I was really glad that you could be in on this interview.
Yeah.
And the interview itself is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the last question is really for any of you on the Chariot. Look, you built this band up, and Scoggins built it up from basically left Norvegine, came in, built this band up, took a pretty big risk, and we here at Shockwave and the metal community here in Baltimore feel like this type of music is kind of like a new renaissance in the heavy music field. The reason being is that there's no mainstream support really for this. The economy is in a tank. There's a lot of apathy towards trying to find non-mainstream music. People really just want to have whatever's on the radio or whatever's on TV,
Right.
if it's even on there anymore. Can you give us just your advice on how, prospective musicians, how music fans, how basically they can, you told me like 10 years ago, you would been in your room doing nothing. Obviously in 10 years, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
What is your advice to kind of get out there, do what you need to do? Because, there's a lot of people who are going to read this interview who are musicians. There are a lot of people who are going to look to you guys and say, this is a successful band. This is a band that, has a huge fan base, a huge following. What did they do that got them through the darkest times, got them through the apathy that's in the industry right now? And what can you do to help others follow in these successful steps?
Yeah. Well, I think that, like you just said, the music industry is it's a mess, There's a lot of things that are changing that it's kind of hard to put your finger on there's no formula to be successful, And so, in knowing that, because record labels are kind of going out, and management's like the thing now. You need good management, or is that even true? Do we need a label, or how should we posture ourselves in this, and what should we pursue? As speaking from a musician's standpoint, But I think what the foundation of all of that, and which is lacking, and like what we talked about, is lacking in most of art and music today, is a passion for what you're doing, And I think a lot of times I'll see bands that are young and local, or trying to do something, and they're more focused on being successful than enjoying what they do, and I can fast forward for them a couple of years and see a lot of friends of mine that are in bands that are extremely successful, but were those kids that were just trying to be successful, and they're still found wanting, because they're doing something that they aren't necessarily passionate about. They just wanted to be successful, you know. And I guess my question would be, what is being successful? You know, you may or may not say that we are successful, but there you can always want to be more successful, you know. And so there's this, you know, it's like a rat race, or you know, like a carrot on a string, you know, like like idea. You know, it's like you get to this step, but you always want that step and that step and that step. So I think what my advice would be is just to do what you love and to not try to carbon copy anything, you know. And if you were to do something uh, successful, it would be so much more of a blessing to do something that you were passionate about, you know, than doing something to make money or to be in a magazine, because all of that fades away, you know. Once you're alone out on the road and you're driving and you're super tired, or you're doing long, you know, scream the prayer dates, you know, or whatever you may or may not, being away from family and friends for years, you know, it's like, what's gonna take you through that? Not being successful, because it doesn't matter, you know. And so yeah, just being passionate about what you're doing. And for me, it's like I love every kind of music, but I only like passionate music. You know, people that are passionate about what they're doing. So do that, and whether you're successful in the eyes of this world or not, you will always be successful in your heart. Because even if you're playing in front of 10 people, but you love what you're doing, that's really the only thing that matters, you know, as far as creating. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Anything else you wanted to add off the top of your head? The floor is open to you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I just said is like my main thing, you know. For us, you know, it's like it's an opportunity. The band doesn't mean anything. I don't care about playing music in front of people. I can't say that I always did that, but because I've gotten to that place of not caring, is giving me the opportunity for it to be worth doing at all. And I would argue that it's not worth doing, and if you can't get to that place where it's coming to a point where you're pointing to something bigger than yourself. Because if you're pointing to yourself, then you're only fooling yourself. I think that there's a lot of people that create art that are doing it, that are completely self-absorbed, you know, and they're trying to receive glory from it, and there's nothing in that. There's only, that's a void. You know, you will always be found wanting in that place. So for me, it's like, you know, our faith in the Lord it's not a gimmick. It's not like it's the most freeing thing, you know. Yeah, it's awesome, you know. And so in what we get to do is worship for that, you know. And yeah, so find it for yourself and be passionate about it for yourself, not for anything that you could be rewarded in this world for it, you know. But,
awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for chilling with us.